It all started when Eliza got into a car accident. I was at work when her mom called, sounding completely frantic, and asked me to rush to the hospital. I immediately canceled an important meeting with a client. It couldn't wait, and hopped into the nearest taxi. The moment I stepped onto the ward, I saw Eliza. She was sitting up in a hospital gown, staring straight ahead, looking totally lost. The afternoon light hit her face just right, and she was still the woman I was crazy about. When she heard me, her eyes slowly turned my way, scanning the room before finally landing on me. My first thought was to run over and check if she was okay. Eliza looked back at me with a blank, confused stare. "Who are you?" she asked. My heart just dropped. By the look on her face, I knew she wasn't pretending. Her mom came over and quietly explained. The doctor said she might have amnesia. I felt a punch of sadness, but I quickly shook it off. "It's fine," I said, forcing a smile. "I'll help you get your memory back." I went to grab a bottle of water for her. When I got back, there was some guy standing right next to her bed. He was wearing a white doctor's coat, but it was open, 2 buttons undone, and he had this sleazy, arrogant look. Definitely not a real doctor here. He was leaning in really close to Eliza, and from my angle it looked like they were about to kiss. Eliza didn't move away at all. Then the guy said, "Eliza, you remember me, right?" I froze, solid the second I heard his voice. It was Max, her ex-boyfriend. I didn't know why he was there, but just seeing him made my skin crawl. I was about to walk into the room, but then Eliza let out a small, soft giggle. "Of course I remember you, you goofball," she said. So Eliza really did lose her memory. She didn't remember me, but she remembered her ex-boyfriend, Max. He had the same slightly wavy light brown hair he'd had in college, still looking all charming and handsome. Everyone back then knew Eliza was obsessed with him. Right now, she was gazing at him with pure adoration. Max sat on the edge of her mattress, pressing right up against her. He put a hand on her shoulder and chuckled. "Then do you remember the first time I kissed you? Just like this?" Eliza nodded, then leaned in even closer without thinking. A vein was throbbing in my forehead. I couldn't take it anymore and walked right in. "Eliza!" Max and Eliza quickly separated the moment I spoke. Eliza looked up at me, her smile gone. She looked confused. "What are you doing here? Who are you?" "I'm Liam, your boyfriend," I said calmly, then glanced over at Max. A flash of anger crossed his eyes, but he quickly covered it with a bright, fake smile. "Liam, I heard about Eliza's accident," he said. "I figured she hadn't eaten lunch, so I made her something myself. My cooking isn't as good as yours, buddy, so I hope Eliza doesn't mind." Max held up a food container and gave me a smug, raised eyebrow. I was about to tell him to leave, but Eliza cut in. "I don't mind." Max beamed. He instantly sat back down next to Eliza, so close their arms were touching. She didn't move. Her eyes followed his every movement. Max opened the container and started feeding her himself. "Open up! Say ah!" he cooed. Eliza giggled quietly and took the bite. Max shot me a challenging look. "Liam, could you be a dear and get Eliza another glass of water?" he asked. The way Max was acting, you'd think he was her boyfriend. I didn't move. The room was totally silent. Eliza looked over at me. When she saw me standing still, she frowned a little. I forced a smile and took the container from Max's hand. "Thanks for bringing my girlfriend lunch, but I can handle feeding her," I said. I stood in front of him, waiting for him to get up. Max paused for a second, then a grin spread across his face. He said in a gentle voice, "I was just so worried about Eliza that I got carried away. I didn't mean anything by it. Don't get the wrong idea, Liam." I smiled back. I won't. She's my girlfriend. I trust her. Before Max left, he shook his head and gave me a knowing look. I sat down next to Eliza and held out the container and chopsticks. She didn't take them. She waited until Max's figure had completely disappeared down the hall. Only then did Eliza slowly look away. The small, fake smile was gone, replaced by her usual distant expression. "I'm not hungry anymore," she said. I didn't argue. I stood up and dumped all the food from the container right into the trash. Eliza stared at me in shock. "You..." I looked at her. "Didn't you say you weren't hungry?" I scraped the container clean with the chopsticks. "I'm sure Max's takeout wasn't very good anyway. I'll go downstairs and get you something more nutritious." Eliza avoided my gaze, looking uncomfortable. Her expression turned cold. "Don't bother." "Okay then, I won't," I replied. If she said no, she must not be hungry. I started telling Eliza about our memories together, how she ran through a storm to buy me my favorite cake from that one special bakery just to get my attention, how she stayed up all night glued to her phone to get tickets to my favorite concert, how she said we'd get married 2 years after college. As Eliza listened, she looked at me suspiciously. "That sounds like something I wouldn't do." I smiled. She was right. Those were all things I did for her. But I just wanted to see if it would spark a memory. The doctor said she could go home soon. While we waited for the paperwork, I was busy replying to client messages. Eliza glanced at me a few times. She seemed like she wanted to say something, but was holding back. I put my phone down and looked at her. "I'm your boyfriend. You can say whatever's on your mind." Eliza looked up at me. What if I never get my memory of you back? What would you do?" I stared at her for a long time. "Then I'll just have to help you remember me." After she was allowed to leave. Eliza's leg was still weak, so there were a lot of things she couldn't do. I became the most dedicated boyfriend you could imagine. I'd buy her favorite bagels for breakfast. I'd come over after work to take care of her. I even washed her clothes by hand. "Eliza, you're out of laundry detergent," I said. No response. I turned and looked into the living room. Eliza was sitting on the couch, looking at her phone. She hadn't heard me. She was totally focused on the screen, a little smile playing on her lips now and then. I walked closer and saw she was texting someone. The screen was full of messages. Before I could see who it was, Eliza heard my footsteps and quickly hid her phone. She looked at me, startled. "You scared me." Seeing her act so sneaky and guilty made me uneasy. I tried to joke about it. "What are you hiding? Anyone would think you were seeing someone else." Eliza's expression became a little forced. Her phone was face down on the couch. She looked up at me, her face still blank and distant. "I'm sorry, I still can't remember you." Then she looked at the soapy clothes in my hands. "Taking care of me like this, don't you feel put upon?" I blinked. Something about that sentence felt odd, but I smiled and said, "Not at all. You're my girlfriend, after all." For the next few days, my life was simple. Take care of Eliza, have dinner with her, and then go home. One day, I had to work late because of an urgent matter, a difficult client I couldn't put off. I sent a text to Eliza. "I have to work late tonight, can't make it to your place." Eliza quickly replied with a simple, "Okay." I had just finished dinner and was about to head back to the office when I got a message from the client. Something had come up, and they had to cancel. I figured Eliza and her mom probably hadn't eaten yet, so I bought some takeout to bring over. As I was about to go upstairs, My eyes caught a familiar couple. There was nothing wrong with Eliza's leg. She was standing perfectly steady. Not only that, she was holding a crying Max in her arms, comforting him softly. "Baby, you know you're the only one I love. I'd walk through fire for you if you asked. No one else has that power over me." Max, in a very dramatic way, lightly pounded his fist on her chest. "Then why haven't you broken up with Liam yet?" His voice cracked. Eliza frowned with sympathy. "He's such a doormat," Eliza said. "He acts like a butler, spending money and doing all the work. That new perfume you were using the other day? He's the one who bought it for me. And look, he just gave me 2 tickets for the latest movie. I was planning on taking you." Max glanced at the movie tickets. The tears stopped. He childishly wrapped his arms around Eliza's neck and kissed her hard. "I don't care. Even if you break up, you're still mine. You're not allowed to fall in love with him." Eliza chuckled and rubbed her forehead against his. Her tone was dripping with sarcasm. "That idiot? Told him I had amnesia, and he believed it. How could I ever fall in love with him?" Max laughed at that. But I just stood there, frozen, my fists clenched. Lost in the moment, they started kissing passionately. I couldn't watch anymore. I walked right up to them, my eyes wide, and just stared. "Having a good time, you two? Want me to take a picture for you?" Max reacted first, letting out a shriek when he saw me. Then Eliza turned and saw me too. Her expression changed quickly before settling into a furious scowl. "Liam, aren't you supposed to be working late? What are you doing here?" Then a thought seemed to hit Eliza, and her face changed again. "Liam, you knew all along, didn't you? You were following me?" Her honesty was debatable, but her imagination was pretty good. I couldn't help but laugh. "Eliza, you remember everything now, don't you?" Eliza sneered. She pointed at Max, her voice full of false virtue. "Sorry, but I still don't remember you, so I can't love you. But my gut tells me that he's the boy I'm supposed to be with." I nodded in amazement. I was silent for a moment. Then I burst out laughing. "Well, congratulations then." Without a second thought, I snatched the 2 movie tickets I'd bought from Eliza's hand. "That's okay. I think my memory's coming back too. I just remembered my girlfriend isn't you." I turned to leave. Max looked annoyed. "Why does he get to take our movie tickets?" Eliza whispered, "He's the one who bought them." Max wasn't happy. He stomped his foot in frustration. "I don't care! Get them back for me!" And Eliza actually listened to him. She quickly ran to block my path. And wow, her legs were strong. It made me wonder if the amnesia, the leg injury, and maybe even the car accident were all an act. "Liam, the movie tickets!" I scoffed. She really had the nerve to ask for them back. I looked down at the dinner in my hands, including the hot soup. I turned and threw it all in her face. "Eliza, since you have no shame, let me help you wash your face." Max rushed over, pointing and yelling at me. "You're so barbaric!" Losing my patience, I picked up the other container of soup and dumped it on his face, too. "Don't fight over it, you scumbag. There's plenty for you, too." If I had known what kind of person Eliza was, what she was capable of, I would have fed this dinner to a dog before I ever gave it to her. As they both shrieked and cursed, I dusted off my hands and coolly walked away. The next time I ran into Eliza and Max was about 2 weeks later. I was waiting for a client outside a bubble tea shop. Max was complaining, trying to get Eliza to buy him a drink. They seemed to have just had a fight, and Eliza didn't look too happy either. Then she turned her head and saw me. Max immediately hid behind Eliza, grabbing the corner of her shirt. "Eliza, you misunderstood earlier. I just thought that woman was pretty. It doesn't mean I don't love you. Besides, I asked for her number, and she turned me down, right? I know you love me and you care about me, so please don't be mad, okay?" As Max spoke, he secretly glanced over at me. Eliza followed his gaze. After a brief pause, a smile spread across her face. She handed the bubble tea in her hands to Max, then sauntered over to me with a smirk. Having regrets? She had such an arrogant look on her face. I couldn't help but roll my eyes. When I didn't say anything, Eliza sneered at me. "See, Max? This is the doormat I was telling you about. Even after he broke up with me, he's still following me, chasing me all the way here. If you start messing around with other women, I might just dump you and go back to my backup plan here." I felt a wave of nausea. I gagged, and the sound was loud enough to interrupt Eliza's self-important speech. Eliza's eyes flickered toward me. What's wrong with you?" she asked, pretending to be concerned. I straightened up and smiled. "Sorry about that. I just heard some pathetic whining and it made me feel sick." Eliza's face went pale, then red. "Liam, you're going to regret this." I laughed coldly. Of course I wouldn't regret it. Eliza tried to pull Max away, but he stopped her. "Wait a second." A smirk appeared on Max's face. "We're not done with him for that soup incident." With that, he twisted the cap off his bubble tea and walked toward me. I saw what he was planning and tried to dodge, but I wasn't fast enough. He threw the drink at me, soaking my shirt. A hot, wet sensation spread across my back. Damn it. This was the shirt I wore for client meetings. Once a sugary drink like that gets on it, the stain is impossible to get out. The shirt was basically ruined. Max covered his mouth, trying to hide a giggle. "Look, Eliza, now it's his turn to be humiliated in public." He had barely finished his sentence. A clean handkerchief was offered to me, and at the same time, a slender hand gently touched my arm, pulling me behind her. It was Sarah Bell, the client I was waiting for. She stood in front of me, her expression cool as she looked up. Max's laugh died in his throat. He stared at Sarah, stunned. "You?" Eliza immediately became cautious. She frowned at Max. "Is that the woman whose number you asked for? She doesn't look like much." Eliza's tone was sour and spiteful. She shot me a look and added another comment. "And now she's with Liam. They're probably up to something shady." Sarah frowned and shot her a cold look. "I suggest you watch your mouth." Then she turned to Max. "When you damage someone's property, you have to pay for it. I gave him this shirt, and it was very expensive. So are we settling this privately, or should we get the authorities involved?" Max looked back and forth between me and her, his expression unreadable. It took him a moment to process the fact that we knew each other. He bit his lip, trying to look innocent. "What do you mean, get the authorities involved?" "Call the police." Sarah was direct. I tried to play the victim to get out of paying. "Ma'am, I'm so sorry. I didn't know his shirt was that expensive. Besides, I didn't start it. Last time this jerk threw hot soup all over me." Sarah looked at me. I nodded with a smile. "So what if I did?" Sarah lightly brushed some imaginary dust off her sleeve, her voice casual. "I'm sure he had a good reason for whatever he did. You are paying for this shirt." Sarah's words made me want to cheer. She really didn't fall for that whole innocent act. When Max saw that nothing he said would change Sarah's mind, he actually dropped the attitude and turned to me. "Come on, Liam. We were classmates. How was I supposed to know your shirt was so expensive? I just lost my temper for a second. Besides, you threw soup on me last time, so let's just call it even, okay?" I couldn't help but laugh out loud. "Call it even? You stole my girlfriend and love to cheat. Why would I ever want to be even with you? And another thing, when you damage someone's property, you pay for it. That's just how it is. Calling someone ma'am or buddy and acting pitiful isn't going to get you out of it. I gave Eliza a half smile. Not everyone falls for your little games. Max's face turned ashen. Just before we were about to call the police, Max reluctantly paid up. Max didn't have that much money. He looked at Eliza. Eliza, can you help me pay for it? I don't have enough. Eliza looked uncomfortable. If you don't have it, I don't have it either. I watched them with a faint smile. Of course, Eliza didn't have that much money. Since graduation, she'd been coasting on her good looks and a devoted boyfriend like me. She probably thought she could live just fine without working. I had bought most of the things in her apartment. Now that we were broken up and I'd cut off the money, it made sense that she was short on cash. Eliza and Max looked at each other. They whispered back and forth for a long time, but couldn't come up with a solution. Sarah looked down at me with a smile. You kept turning me down for this woman? I laughed at myself. I was blind back then. My apologies. I glanced at my watch. It was about time. Have you two figured it out yet? How are you going to pay? Max hid behind Eliza. She'll pay for it. Eliza reluctantly transferred the money from her personal savings. She looked miserable. Max, that was the money I was saving up for our future. It's all gone now. Max was impatient. We can just save more. I can't believe you're so broke, being so cheap about it. Sarah took my arm and led me away. But what Eliza had just said echoed in my mind. We were together for 2 years. She never once talked about marrying me, but she had been saving up for a future with Max all along. I couldn't help but let out a small, bitter laugh at my own blindness over the past 2 years. It was just beyond words. Sarah had been interested in me for a long time. She started out as a client, but she claimed it was love at first sight. She kept asking me out, but I always said no. After she helped me out at the bubble tea shop, she became even more determined. Liam, I have complete faith in your professional abilities, but I seriously question your taste in people. So I guess there was a reason you kept turning me down for so long. Every time we ate out, Sarah would thoughtfully hand me the menu. Then she'd carefully get napkins ready for me. Her consideration and attention to detail were things I'd never experienced before. It warmed my heart, and I gave in. I suggested we could try dating. What's on your mind? I was standing on the balcony, staring at my phone. Sarah came up from behind and hugged me. It's the class reunion this weekend, and I don't want to go, but Chloe, my old department senior, is insisting I have to be there. Sarah guessed that I didn't want to run into Eliza and Max. We had all known each other since college. Sarah gently ruffled my hair. Go ahead. You have nothing to be afraid of. I'll come pick you up when it's over. Something sparked in Sarah's eyes. I was mesmerized. The next second, a smile touched Sarah's lips as she leaned in and gently kissed me. The class reunion was in a private room at a hotel. When I arrived, the room was already full. Max was wearing a white casual suit, sitting in the back, talking with some classmates. You guys have no idea. Liam has latched onto a sugar mama. You know, the CEO of Stellar Corp? I walked in, and the room went silent. Only the end of Max's sentence hung in the air. Chloe came over to greet me. Liam, you're here! Hey, Chloe, I said with a polite smile as she led me to a seat. Of course, I ended up right next to Max. Max was dripping with sarcasm. Well, well, if it isn't our famous alumnus, Liam. Everyone says he's so successful, but who knows if he earned it himself or if he slept his way to the top. He rolled his eyes. A few people around us covered their mouths to stifle a laugh. I sat there quietly, not saying a word. A guy who was friends with Max chimed in with a snide tone. Man, you really can't judge a book by its cover. Eliza was the queen bee of our school back then, and she only had eyes for Max, her one true love. They were just going through a rough patch, had one little fight, and someone took advantage of the situation and stole Max's girlfriend. There were gasps from around the room. A sophomore whispered to his friend, "Can he even say that?" I instinctively glanced at Eliza, who was sitting in a corner. She lit a cigarette and said nothing, just quietly watching us. I frowned. I've always hated the smell of smoke. During our 2 years together, I had forced Eliza to quit. She would never smoke in front of me, but now she had reverted to the person she was when she was with Max. I looked down and chuckled softly. Eliza's silence was a form of agreement. In front of all our old classmates, she was letting Max slander me like this. She was the one who cheated. Max was the shameless one. But here they were, in front of everyone, twisting the truth. The whispers around me were getting louder. I turned to Chloe and asked loudly, "Chloe, you're a law student. What's the penalty for slander and defamation?" Chloe's eyes darted between me and Max. She gave a nervous laugh and sat down next to me to explain. "Liam, don't worry about it. We all know you're not like that. Besides, I'm sure Max didn't mean any harm." I just looked at her. She seemed like a complete stranger. Even though we were in the same department, we hadn't been that close, and there had always been rumors that Chloe had a crush on Max, too. Maybe guys who looked like Max were just popular, but that didn't mean I had to put up with being slandered for no reason. I chuckled. "Then do you know what kind of person Max is, Chloe?" My voice wasn't loud, but it was clear enough for everyone in the room to hear. I stood up. I never stole anyone's girlfriend. After Eliza and Max broke up, she was the one who pursued me. We were together for 2 years, and Max shamelessly became the other man. He spent my money, used the things I bought, and even the cologne he wore was a gift I gave to my ex-girlfriend, Eliza. And as for latching onto a sugar mama, that's just Max being bitter because he tried and failed to hit on my girlfriend. My classmates remembered me as a quiet person. After that speech, they all stared at me in shock. The way they looked at Max changed, too. Max also stood up. "What are you talking about? Everyone here has eyes. They can all see whether or not you stole my girlfriend." Max's eyes swept over me, and he sneered. "Besides, how could a guy like you get a VP position at a major company if you weren't sleeping with a woman?" I just laughed in disbelief. I shook my head. "Someone like you couldn't, that's for sure. But I can. It seems like this reunion isn't really worth my time. If you're going to let any stray dog in, then I'll see myself out." I turned to leave. Chloe tried to stop me. "Liam, don't go!" I pushed the door open and left. Only when I got outside did I realize it had started to rain. I didn't have an umbrella, so I called Sarah. Soon I heard voices behind me. Max and a few other classmates had followed me out. "If you don't believe what I said, then just believe your own eyes. He doesn't have an umbrella. Someone will definitely come pick him up. Just you watch." I suddenly regretted coming here today. Just then, Eliza pushed past them and walked toward me with an umbrella. "Here." I looked at Eliza in surprise, as if she were a complete stranger. She held the umbrella out to me. When Max saw this, he looked like he was about to explode. "Eliza, what are you doing? That's my umbrella." Eliza frowned. The way she looked at Max was no longer affectionate. There was even a hint of disgust and annoyance. "What do you mean, your umbrella? I bought it for you." Max lunged forward to grab. Eliza dodged, and Max lost his balance, nearly falling over. "It's still my umbrella!" Max suddenly seemed to break down, his eyes turning red. "Eliza, be honest. Have you actually fallen in love with Liam?" Eliza was silent. Then she looked Max straight in the eye. "Yes. I regret getting back together with you." Max stood there stunned. Eliza ignored him. She turned to me and offered the umbrella again. "Liam, I'm sorry. I was so stupid before. I was blinded by Max's games and didn't see how good you were to me. Can you give me another chance?" Hope flickered in Eliza's eyes. She looked at me cautiously, but I just frowned. The disgusting smell of smoke, carried by the night wind, wafted over from Eliza. I gently covered my nose and mouth and shook my head with a smile. "Sorry, I already have a girlfriend. After all, playing games like that just isn't my style." A black car pulled up to the hotel entrance. It honked twice, softly. I turned and saw Sarah roll down the window and wave at me. Then she got out of the car with an umbrella. "Thank you all for seeing my boyfriend off." Sarah was polite and gracious, thanking the group of classmates who had come out to watch the show. "Let's go." Sarah took my hand, and we were about to leave. Suddenly, someone called out from behind us. "Wow, is that a Rolls-Royce? I've never seen someone drive a car like that in real life. Liam, is your girlfriend that rich?" The classmate's exclamation brought Max back to life. He squinted at me with a cold smile, his eyes filled with jealousy and venom. "I told you! How could he get such a rich girlfriend if he wasn't a sugar baby? We're all old classmates. We know each other's backgrounds. We all know exactly what you're made of, Liam." Max's malicious taunts made everyone present frown. Eliza's face was cold. "Shut up." Sarah looked at Max for a long moment. Then she spoke. "If I remember correctly, you're the boy who ruined my boyfriend's shirt last time, right? The one whose years of savings couldn't even cover the cost of one of his shirts. A person with your kind of character and vision will naturally find a woman who is your equal." Max's face went white with rage. "What did you say?" I watched Sarah, amused. I never would have thought someone so elegant could be so savage with her words. Sarah, like a seasoned lawyer, scanned the group of my old classmates. "But I owe a lot of my success today to Liam. If he hadn't helped me with strategy, I wouldn't be able to drive a Rolls-Royce." With that, Sarah smiled and led me away. I glanced back one last time. Max's face was twisted with anger. Eliza stood frozen, her expression dark. I felt fantastic. The more time we spent together, the more I realized how compatible Sarah and I were. We had similar interests and endless things to talk about. Especially in our professional lives, we were friends, partners, and the perfect client-vendor pair who were always on the same page. Every time Sarah gave me a hard time at work, she would inevitably make it up to me by cooking something delicious at home. A few times, Sarah told me my PowerPoint presentations were subpar and needed improvement. When we got home, I'd make her do all the chores as punishment. After she was done, she'd open her laptop and help me fix the slides. I'd snack on sunflower seeds and enjoy the show. As for Eliza and Max, they seemed to fade further and further from my life. The memories of all their drama started to dissolve. Until one day, I heard Max had gotten into some trouble, and Eliza was trying to find me to ask for help. I didn't answer her calls and blocked all her contact information. Eliza cornered me outside my office building. She looked distressed and was even about to kneel, drawing the attention of my coworkers. Worried she would cause a scene, I agreed to meet her at the coffee shop downstairs. Eliza looked much more haggard, and a lot thinner. She started talking anxiously. "Liam, I know I did you wrong, but I really need your help right now." I took a sip of my coffee, listening with a neutral expression. It was certainly a first for me, an ex-girlfriend with whom things ended so badly having the nerve to ask me for a favor for her other ex-boyfriend. "Max thinks I'm going to leave him, so he took a bunch of sleeping pills." I looked at her blankly. "And? What does that have to do with me?" This was ridiculous. Eliza hesitated for a moment before finally spitting it out. "They were able to save him, but now he's refusing to eat and making a big scene, saying he has to see Sarah. Do you think you could help?" I couldn't help but laugh out loud. I held up my hand in front of Eliza's face, showing her the ring on my finger. "Eliza, do you really think I'm going to help with that? Sarah just proposed to me. We're getting married soon. Do you think I'm going to let a man who has been after my fiancée meet with her?" Eliza's eyes were glued to the ring on my finger. How is that possible? You said yes?" I shrugged. "Why would it be impossible? Didn't you say you would love me forever?" Eliza's eyes welled up with tears. I was completely baffled. I had no idea what she was trying to do. She was the one who said she loved Max, and now she was here acting all heartbroken and devoted to me. I sneered. "Eliza, not everyone is going to wait around for you. What you don't cherish, someone else will. Let me give you a piece of advice. If you really love Max, then treat him well, keep him in line, and stop him from constantly flirting with everyone. Otherwise, you'll both live to regret it." With that, I turned and left. Eliza called my name. I didn't slow down. I didn't even pause for a second. Sarah and I got married. We had a huge wedding. All our friends and family came to celebrate with us. Sarah said the bigger the wedding, the better. I invited a lot of old friends and classmates, but I deliberately didn't invite Eliza and Max. But I never expected them to have the nerve to show up uninvited. They even tried to cause a scene at my wedding. Max tried to drug one of the drinks. Luckily, a relative saw him and caught him in the act. Security threw them out. It was a pathetic sight. That was the last time I ever saw them. Later, Sarah's business grew, and we opened a branch office. I left my job to help her manage it, and we moved to a new city. The next time I heard about Eliza and Max, it was from an old classmate. Apparently, Eliza kept putting off any talk of marrying Max. Max found some rich older woman somewhere and was planning to run off with her. But Eliza found out. They broke up. The rich older woman was only interested in his looks from the start, and she dumped him when she got bored. I heard things ended pretty badly for him. I just listened to it like it was some funny story. After all, their drama had nothing to do with me from the very beginning.